So HOF is all about arrow function now, sir? No. I mean, no. Chalo. So let's do one thing. Let me create a readme.md file. And यहाँ पे let's do a quick recap कि what have we learned so far and उसको use कैसे करने वाले. ठीक ठीक. So first thing first. Do you guys remember our HTML days? कई सदियों पहले हम HTML पढ़ा करते थे. What we used to do there? क्या करते थे HTML में? क्या करते थे? Were we creating structures of our website? Website का structure बनाते थे. Right? So let's say I'm telling you guys that guys create a e-com website, and in that e-com website you should have 100 products. Right? For now, अभी हमारी company छोटी सी है. I just want 100 products. So how many divs are we gonna create? Boxes, container कितने बनने वाले? 100 containers. So I'm gonna do something like this. Div into, for now मैं 10 ही लिख रहा हूँ. But okay, MD5, not an issue. So इस तरीके से we were gonna create 10 different divs, right? उस div में let's say कि I want a title, I want a description, I want an image, right? So separately we were gonna create each and everything, right? Inside this h, inside this p, and then we're gonna have an image tag, right? Image tag, self-closing. Take, and then this div was gonna get copied over and over again 100 times. Take, plus the data will be updated. So do you think there's an issue in scalability here? Issue here because this 100 products is sometimes gonna be 1000, for sometimes it's gonna be 10,000 and so on. Right? Plus there's an issue कि we might want to change the product some way, somehow, sometime in the coming timeline. Yes, product का price increase या decrease होगा, product में images, versions increase या decrease होंगे. Yes or no? So do you think कि सिर्फ HTML में just going there and creating divs and putting everything in there, is that a good way of doing things? No, right? So readability and scalability is going in dump. We are not doing anything with it. So what we do is, हम क्या करते हैं? We introduce a concept which is called DOM. Right? Does anyone knows the full form of this thing? DOM का full form किसी को पता है? Okay, no takers. Document, very good. Object, model. Right? So we have document, object, model. Right? So now this DOM is associated both with HTML and JavaScript. Think of it as a connection between your HTML and JS. Right? So do you guys remember last lecture में मैंने क्या बोला था? Last to last में maybe कि everything in JavaScript is wrapped inside an object. Yes. When JavaScript tried to touch HTML ना, उसने क्या किया? It tried to convert HTML into an object itself. What do I mean by that? JavaScript क्या करेगा? It tries to manipulate our HTML into a form of object which is later called DOM. Right? So basically this document object model का मतलब ये होता है कि it's an object of your HTML document. Let me show you guys. So index.html में let's do our usual stuff. ये हुआ, and in here यहाँ पे if I go and write console.log of document, right? Not this. Just go. यहाँ पे so let's create a script tag. And यहाँ पे let's do console.log and let me open the inspect section. And console. Take, so यहाँ पे if I go and write document, the D of our document object model, right? We're getting something in here, right? If I click on it, you guys see it's getting expanded, right? And what is inside this document? क्या है इस document के अंदर? क्या है? whatever we have written so far? Yes or no? Right? If I go and add a div in it with a h2 of learning Tom, you guys will notice that this thing will be added in our body. Right? There you go. Div ke andar we have learning Tom. Right. So what JavaScript is basically doing is it's converting this HTML document into a scalable object. Right. तो क्या हो रहा है? If I open a drawing page, in here, let's say if we have tags like this, like div, and in that div we have a section, and in that section we have a h2. राइट तो जावास्क्रिप्ट क्या करेगा इट्स गोना क्रिएट अ डिव ऑब्जेक्ट राइट एक डिव ऑब्जेक्ट होगा उसके अंदर you're gonna have your section and उसके अंदर you're gonna have your h2 राइट तो ओवरऑल ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है प्लस इट हैज सम मेथड्स राइट सो let me show you guys कि how we can access things and all first thing first so let's say कि I have a div in here and इसको I go and give it some id right so let's say if I give it contain ठीक so let's say if I want to access this container कौन सा object access करूंगा मैं in our script tag which is the OG like original parent of everything in form of JavaScript document this entire document right so if I go in here and let's say if I'm writing container equals to यहाँ पे जाके मैं क्या लिखूंगा I'll write document right so I'll be basically accessing my object document object it has a method which says get element by id right document जो object है your DOM का object document it has a method which is called get element by id and in this get element by id na we pass a argument which is basically the id that you want to access right so should I write container in here container ठीक है तो एक काम करते हैं let's go and write container and let's see कि what this thing actually prints right तो print क्या कर रहा है let's go and check that out so if I do console dot log container what am I getting I'm getting this exact box right ये पूरा का पूरा मुझे container मिल गया है ना now if I create another container right if I create another container I can simply access that container by writing document.container for that right so all I have to do is I have to come here I'll write container2 and यहाँ पे मैं id update करूँ right so just by doing that now I'm able to access my container right so I'm able to access my HTML in JavaScript itself right but for now it does not has any use as such कोई use है इस चीज का as such is there any use no but let's say कि if I want a button and उस button के click पे I want to change the text of this thing will that be a use so let's see basically what I'll do is I'll create a button in here right and button basically says change text right abhi whenever I press on this button na, I want to update this h2 take so I should be pressing on that button right and button press hone pe something should happen do you guys remember have I taught you something which should happen when a button should be pressed याद है किसी को hover नहीं do you guys remember मैं जब function पढ़ा रहा था what did I told you guys कि when will function be used it will be called जब button click होगा तो we are just making a function call right तो ये जो होता है ना when user like we are a user for this web page when user tries to interact with our web page ना we call that interaction a event क्या बोलते हैं a event right? Let me spell it out for you guys. We call it basically a event, right? This can be anything from clicking a button to filling an input to selecting a tag to like it can be hover also, right? So you guys get an idea कि जब भी user tries to interact with a website ना, we're saying कि that thing is an event, right? For clicking, we have an event which is called on click, right? So basically again event add करने के there are two different ways. ठीक, one way is to go and directly write things in our HTML, right? So I can go in here and I can add an attribute which is called on click, right? In this on click, what I'll do is I'll do a function call. So let's do one thing. Let's go and create a function, right? So here a function and let's say greet, I'm calling it. And in here, I'm just doing console.log. Take, so whenever I'm clicking on this button, I should run this function. All I have to do is I have to write the function call here. Take the greet, and this should be called whenever this button is pressed. So I click on this button. Are we getting hello? Right? So however many times I click on it, it will print this here. Okay. Now second thing comes ki all right, we are able to interact with our website. We are able to access our element in our website. How can we modify these elements? Right? Element के अंदर की चीजों को update कैसे करें? So there are again 2-3 ways of doing this thing, right? Event function, I'll show you. Thoda time. Right? So again, all you can do is you can come in here and we can access this container, right? So now this container is this thing. We are aware about this. ये जो div मिल रहा है हमें, we are getting that, everyone, container, right? So again, this container will have some methods like inner HTML, inner text, and text content. Right? So what are these and how do we use these? Let's talk about that. So in our container, we have this h2. We have this h2, right? So let's say if I go in here and if I write a variable let one equals to document name, we have our container dot inner HTML, right? Take time we have written inner HTML, and if I do go and do console.log one, take, so let's see what we are gonna print. Take, if I click on change text, what are we printing? क्या प्रिंट कर रहे हैं? श्रीकांत थोड़ी देर में दिखाता हूँ, ठीक? Just give me some time. We're just going there only. उधर ही जा रहे हैं. ठीक? So it's showing us this learning DOM वाला tag, right? So basically inner HTML क्या करता है? It shows the entire tag things text with HTML itself. Right? जो भी HTML उसके अंदर लिखा है, it's gonna show that. Let's say if I go and write 2 equals to container dot inner text, right? If I go and do console dot log 2, right? If I press on this, what am I getting? Am I getting element inside it or just the text? Only the text. सिर्फ टेक्स्ट मिल रहा है, सिर्फ टेक्स्ट मिल रहा है, राइट? उसके बाद let's say if I go in here and if I write a 3 and in this 3 let's go define the 3, let 3 equals to container dot text text content, right? If I click on this container, yeah, let me clear this. And if I click on it, what are we getting? We're still getting the text, right? So these two things are almost same, rather inner text is much more used rather than text content, but ये दोनों का काम is almost similar. This one is a bit different because by using dot inner HTML, na, we can actually manipulate HTML inside a tag. Check. Take, so now that you know कि yeah, we can access inner text, do you think we can manipulate the inner text? Do you think that? Take, so let's do one thing. We know we can access things by doing this. Let's do one thing. यहाँ पे आके ना, whenever we are clicking on this greet ना, what I should do is, I should pick container, I should pick its inner text, and I should update it with a hello. Right? So if I click on change text, is it getting updated? Update हो रहा है. Right? But issue क्या है? Given that this is a string, वो अपने normal format में show हो रहा है. It's showing in its normal by default p tag. Right? Do we want a p tag in here? Because we have a h2 in here. यहाँ पे h2 है मेरे पास. So do we want a p tag? नहीं. So what should be better to use here? Inner text or inner HTML? Inner HTML, right? So let's see how that works, right? So यहाँ पे all you have to do is you have to create your string and this can be, right? You have to create your string and in this you can go and write the HTML also, right? And in here I can go and write hi there. Take, so now if I click on change text, we'll see that this is getting updated. Clear? Clear? Right? So is it clear ki how you can at least access a element and how you can at least manipulate an element just for text? For now, we have just learned about text, nothing else. ठीक उसी तरीके से text के तरीके से we have few more. If we don't write h2, you can write anything in here, right? You can even write anchor. Any tag works, right? So if I click on change text, it will show it in that format. Take, so HTML can be used there. That was the point of showing. ठीक, so console नहीं किया फिर भी work क्यों कर रहे हैं? Because are we showing it in console or are we showing it in our HTML? I'm accessing container, right? मैंने क्या किया? I was accessing container by writing document.getElement by id container, and on picking that container and उस container के inner HTML I was updating. Right? So we don't want to see it in our console. We want to see it in our DOM, in our web page. Clear है? यहाँ तक समझ आता है? ठीक. So that's not it. We can even manipulate colors and styles and all. Right? So all you have to do is you have to just do container.style. Right? So by doing this, now we'll be accessing that style wala attribute. In here, you can just go and write, let's say I want to update the color. So I can say color will be red, right? So if I go and click on change text now, it's going to give us that hi there with a red color, right? So again, the attributes are all there. You can just start adding it and it will be doable. Tick. So that's fine. That's fine. We can understand that thing for our text wale tags and all, right? We have h2, we have p, we have anchors and all. But what about tags in which attributes, other attributes like src, href is must? उसके लिए क्या करेंगे? Again, guys, style wale attribute I can access it like this, right? So don't you think if I try to access container and in that I try to access src, will I be able to do that? Given that image wala tag hai. So let's discuss about that. So let's say कि यहाँ पे I have a div and in here let me add an image tag. Tick, and in this image tag I'll give it a container के अंदर का image, right? So I'll give it an ID. Again, we'll have to first access our element. So for accessing the element, we can do a get element by ID, right? So I'll go in here and I'll write img equals to document.getElement by ID, and in here I'll just go and write the ID. So container के अंदर का, right? So if I go in here and again do console.log of image, I should be getting image wala tag, right? If I press on change text, if I click on this, I'm getting this image wala tag, right? So हम क्या कर सकते हैं? Let's create one more button, right? तो एक और button बनाते हैं and it says update image, right? When we're selecting this tag, we should run a function. So let's run an on click, and in here, image update, and I'll call this function. So let's go and create this image update wala function. So function image update. In here, ek kaam karte hain. Let's take this thing. Take, so now again, if I click on image update, I should be getting this image, right? When we were trying to access the attribute style, all we had to do was write dot, right? So let's say if I want to access the attribute of src, all I have to do is I have to write image dot src, right? I'll press an enter, and in string format, I'll provide a link, right? So let's go and get a link. Can't say. So if I click on some image, and let me just copy this. It's a big link. Yes. So let me just copy this image. And in there, I'll put the image. Okay. So now if I click on update image now, you guys will see now I'm showing the image. Right? Right? So now user is able to interact with our website. So far easy? So far easy. First, we have to understand how can we access our DOM elements. So this is how we access our DOM elements. And then we have to manipulate it. So yeah, we can access the attributes by writing a dot क्योंकि ये object model है. Right? For image console is necessary? No, not necessary. Right? It's totally based on you. आपको किस तरीके से approach करना है. I'm just writing it so that I can show you guys कि console में क्या है. Clear है? Clear है? Line 50. This thing, you don't need to console, guys, come on. Take image wala part, okay. So I'll do it once again. So accessing the element, was that part clear? Utna sa part clear hai ki how can we access the element? Access wala clear hai. Take, uske baad adding an event on a button, I have written two functions, ek hai greet, ek hai image update. I've added a on click and I've called that function. Is that also clear? Itna sa part bhi clear hai. Right? How we gives class names and ID? Jo man did. That's on you. Right? But give readable name ताकि पता चले कि हाँ, this belongs to that container or something. Take the second part was accessing के बाद to update it. Right? So what we have to do is we have to just access the attribute by writing dot. Right? So you guys remember कि container like any HTML tag has attribute like style and all. So all you have to do is you have to write dot and you'll be able to access that style. Then you have to select, you want to go for color, you want to go for border, you want to go for font size, you want to go for font family, anything, right? And you can just go and update it in string format. Take, so this was for your text level of element. Unme we can style and give color and all. But let's say we want to access something more, like we want to attach links, right? So just say image mein, we have just access image by writing document.image get element by ID. There you go. And finally, हमने क्या किया? We just picked the image element and we picked .src and we have just provided the link. That's all. Clear? Access inside or outside function, both will work? No. Function, like when you're clicking on this button, na, this function will run, right? Now, if this function has like, it can access global level element, right? So script के अंदर everything is gonna be in global. Right? अब मान लो कि in this function I'm creating a variable let a equals to 10 and you will ask if I can access a equals to 10 in here. So I won't be able to do that, right? Self-explanatory, this part of thing. Clear? Guys, I won't be able to access a in here, right? A is defined in a block. है ना? Yeah. ठीक है. So that's great. Any other doubts so far? किसी को भी कोई दिक्कत कोई परेशानी in this part at least? No? ठीक है. So let's do one thing. Let's create one more file and in there I have to discuss one more thing. Let's say second.html, right? And यहाँ पे let's talk about a div and this div has 5 h2, right? So h2 into 5. Right, and I'm gonna access each and every h2. and usme I'm writing this is right. Now let's access our script, and script ke andar let's go and quickly run it. ठीक है, तो I'm gonna run my file and side by side खोल देते हैं. ठीक है, तो the thing that I wanted to discuss is कि let's say if I give this div an ID and which says container, right? We don't even need ID. Let's say if I go and create a variable contain, right? So far for accessing HTML ka elements, we have to do is we have to get element by ID. We have to do that, right? Right. So sirf get element by ID is not the only way of accessing things. You can go for multiple ways, right? So some of things you will observe, right? So you can do get element by ID, right? You can do get element by tag, right? There is also for class name also. So it's in notes, you will be able to access it. Tag bataunga, it's exactly similar to class name, right? So it's nothing different. All you have to do is first you have to access our document, and in that you will go and type get elements by tag name. Right, and in here, aap kya karoge? You'll go and write the tag name which you wanna access. So let's say I wanna access H2. So what I'll do is I'll go and write H2. Check. I'll go and write H2. Now, if I do a console.log of container, no, let's go and see. So if I do a console.log container, in console, we are getting all those H2, right? But जो यहाँ पे एक छोटी सी बात डिस्कस करनी थी वो ये थी कि when we are doing get element by ID, we were just writing element, right? But when we are doing for tag name, we are writing elements. Any particular reason इस चीज के लिए? अच्छा, you guys remember that we had a rule that ID should be unique. ID should be unique, right? So we by default know कि when we are getting an element by ID, पूरे document में only one element is gonna have that ID. Was that self-explanatory? वो बात already पता थी कि ID is gonna be unique. But if we are going and writing tag name, is there a possibility that there will be multiple tags with exact same name? That's a possibility, right? So in that case, we write get elements by tag name, and जब multiple cases होते हैं ना, in that case we are gonna get a collection. We are gonna get an array of these elements, right? तो एक array आता है हमारे पास like this. So this container ना guys, it's an array. If I go and write container dot length on it ना, you'll see कि it will give us the length of that container, which is how many H2 do we have? 5. So let's say कि हर एक element में if I want to make the color to be red, can I do that? Can I do that? Okay. So let's say if I go and write container dot, let's do one thing. Let's add a button, right? The button के साथ we have a click, so it's better to understand, right? So button again change color, right? Remember I told you guys there will be 2 ways of adding event, right? तो देखो DOM का implementation was there just to remove the dependency of HTML at the most, right? तो HTML के अंदर जितनी कम dependency होगी उतना better रहेगा, right? So rather than attaching our on click, right? Rather than attaching our on click on our button, हम क्या करते हैं? We apply event in our script tag only. How do we do that? We access the container, right? Let's say कि मैं इस button को एक ID दे दूँ, right? So I'll give this thing an ID of btn, right? Let's quickly get this button. So let btn equals to document dot get element by ID, and this will be btn, right? मैं क्या करूँगा? I'll access this btn and I'll add a function in it which is called add event listener, right? what this thing does is it attaches event to this button, right? It's a function. दो चीजें लेता है. First thing, it takes a callback function. First thing, it takes a parameter, right? Parameter क्या होगा? It can be from click to change anything, right? For now, button के लिए event होता है click. So I'm gonna go and write click in here, right? This particular function will get triggered whenever it's clicked, right? उसके बाद क्या करेंगे? I'm gonna write a callback function. Let's create a function. Function clicked, right? ये वाला function call करना. तो यहाँ पे क्या करूँगा? I'll just go and write click. Now, if you guys remember, when we were passing a callback function, were we calling that function? जब callback function we pass as an argument, do we call that function? No, right? The reason being क्योंकि whenever the script tag runs ना, it runs from line by line. So वो इस line पे आएगा, इस line पे आएगा, and if we run this function ना, it will immediately get invoked, right? So if I write a console.log hi there in it ना, hi 3 लिख दिया मैंने, but ठीक है, वो क्या होगा? Without even clicking on that button ना, you guys will see कि console is already there. ठीक है, even though I'll refresh it ना, you'll see I'm not even pressing on this button, console is still there. So to prevent that, to immediately invoke this function, उसको prevent करने के लिए, we don't call it, right? It gets called once we are clicking on it. Fine? Fine? Make sense? Make sense? ठीक, तो ठीक है, कॉल बैक फंक्शन भी पास कर दिया. नाउ यहाँ पे क्या करेंगे हम? अपने क्या करना था हमें? अपने h2 को कलर करना था, राइट? सो हम अपने कंटेनर को एक्सेस करेंगे. एंड कंटेनर क्या दे रहा था? इफ यू गाइस हैव फॉरगॉटन, कंटेनर क्या दे रहा था? लेट मी शो यू गाइस. सो कंटेनर वाज गिविंग अस अ कलेक्शन ऑफ h2, राइट? कलेक्शन का डेटा टाइप क्या है? कलेक्शन का डेटा टाइप क्या है? एन एरे, right? So ठीक है, let's do one thing. Let's access our container, and container में जाके ना style, and I wanna color it red. ठीक, so now I'm gonna go and click on this. I'm getting an error. Cannot set properties of undefined setting color. अरे भाई, इस getting के error क्यों आ रहा है मुझे? देखो, the error is there because container is an array, right? इस array में we have elements in this format, this format, this format. ठीक, if I try to apply a method directly on an array, do you think I will be able to do that? I should be accessing particular element और उस पे method लगाना चाहिए. Should that be the case? Should that be the case? Right? So what I'll do is I'll go for a loop in here, right? So यहाँ पे जाके, let's say if I write let I equals to 0, I is less than container dot length, and I'll do I plus x. And यहाँ पे I'll go in here and I'll pick this up. I'll write if I is divisible by 2, right? अपने को चाहिए red color, else container dot style dot color is gonna be ठीक. तो let's see what this gives us. Although I'm pretty sure कि आप लोगों को एक idea होगा what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen, folks? Right. So if I click on it, okay, wait. ठीक है, तो what's the error? Again, एक छोटा सा error है. Read the error. We have to give ID, right? So container में element को access करवाना. ठीक है. So if I click on change color now, everything is getting changed. Odd वाले red है, even वाले red है, odd वाले teal है. Clear? Clear? ठीक है. Why are we not using href? Yeah, sure. So you can use href. That's totally right. So let's say what I want to do is let me just uncomment it. Okay. So if I want to do something like this, am I expecting an array in return? अगर मैं ऐसा कुछ करना चाह रहा हूँ, तो am I expecting an array in return? If I just want to do this operation, am I expecting an modified array in return? So should I go with map or should I go with for each for this case? अच्छा ठीक है गाइस, एक और बार क्वेश्चन रिपीट करता हूँ. डू आई नीड अ मॉडिफाइड एरे आफ्टर दिस थिंग? नो. मैप क्या करता है? इट रिटर्न्स एन एरे. सो डू यू वांना, ओके यू गाइस आर नॉट अवेयर अबाउट कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज राइट. तो देखो, वी ट्राई टू प्रिवेंट यूज ऑफ एक्स्ट्रा डेटा स्ट्रक्चर एज मच एज वी वांट, राइट. तो जब हम मैप यूज करेंगे ना, व्हाट विल हैपन विल बी बेसिकली रिटर्निंग अ न्यू एरे, राइट. तो उसमें क्या होता है, वी आर यूजिंग अ बिट मोर स्पेस देन वी रिक्वायर, राइट. इस ऑपरेशन में वी डोंट रियली रिक्वायर अ न्यू एरे, राइट. तो टू प्रिवेंट दैट हम क्या करेंगे, विल गो विद फॉर ईच, राइट. सो लेट्स ट्राई दैट. So we have to do for each on container. So container dot for each, and we're gonna pass a function and element, right? And we'll do exact same thing. Take. So now if I click on it again, which is not a function. Okay, let me just quickly print element. Yeah, correct. This will be element and this will be element. ठीक है. एंड आई भी हमें डिफाइन करना होगा, तो लेट्स डिफाइन it. ठीक. सो एलिमेंट को हम लोग कलर रेड कर रहे हैं, एंड बेस्ड ऑन आई वी आर डिफरेंशिएटिंग them, राइट. सो अगेन वी हैव एन एरर व्हिच सेज कंटेनर डॉट फॉर ईच इज नॉट अ फंक्शन. ठीक है. Wait, this console.log container. So this thing is collection. Might be an issue with collection because it's not exactly an array. Arrow function use नहीं किया. We have used our normal function. ठीक है, ठीक है. So the issue might be कि it's not exactly an array, it's a collection. But ठीक है. For each not expected. First get the container not work on HTML. Yeah, I'm expecting that also. ठीक है. तो might be an issue कि collection पे we don't really use for each. ठीक. So ये जो we are getting this HTML collection in return ना, it works and acts as an array. Everything will work, right? जैसे array act करता है ना, it will work and act like an array. But I don't think कि this exact function which is created for an array will work on it. ठीक. So that's why we usually go for thing. So that might be an issue. ठीक है. Map. Okay, let me go for map. So map, if I click on that, map is also not used. So yeah, that might be the issue कि it's a HTML collection, right? So although it acts like an array, it might not go for this thing. ठीक. Let's do a quick check, right? एक check करते हैं. Let's say if I go and do container dot push, right, and to push करते हैं. So do we see a 2 in this? Do we see a 2 in this? We have done push and उसके बाद हमने container print किया है. We click on this. इसको हटा देते हैं so that we don't get an error. ठीक. Let me remove this then also. ठीक. So again, if I click on this, we see कि container dot push is not a function. Yeah. So guys, it's now pretty much proven कि ठीक है. It although it acts like an array, we can't really use array वाले higher order function on this thing. ठीक. HTML collection. ठीक है. So in that case, we'll go with our usual form. ठीक. ठीक. How to check these things? Trial and error. Right. Right. ठीक है. But you won't really have to go for these things for doing this, right? Higher order function ही use होगा. We don't really deal with HTML collections a lot. The reason being because we have better way of accessing things, right? तो collection के साथ we don't usually deal. ठीक. तो that's not an issue. एक काम करते हैं. Let's quickly go through a few more ways of accessing products and then we'll go for map. ठीक. तो चलो वो करते हैं. I did not understand for each. So this container, right? ये जो container था which was giving us these h2, ये 5 h2 दे रहा था, right? तो although it was acting as an array, in like fundamentally ये है HTML collection, right? तो array वाले जो methods थे ना, it won't really work on these collections, right? So we did methods like your, yeah, whenever that will work because we are trying to convert this array, right? Tick rather than directly using it. The point was that HTML collection, although it acts like an array, it does not really accept directly आपका array methods. ठीक है? ठीक है? So again, let's do one thing. Let's quickly show you guys one more small thing. So basically, this is one way of accessing thing. Either you can do a get element by ID and you can access a single element. But if you want to access multiple elements at once, you can either go with tag name or class name, or you can go for a much better way, which is called query selector. Right? So query selector में क्या होता है? What you do is you go and write let's say BTN, right? And in here you can just go and write document.query selector. And in here it's not specific कि you have to just select ID, you have to just select class. You can go and write that thing, right? तो अगर आपको ID select करना है, you'll write hash button. ठीक? So if I go and again console my button. Let me comment these things out quickly. And button dot query this console also. Take and यहाँ पे let's add a console dot log. Tick and clicked ये वाला भी comment out. ठीक है. So if I again access my button, am I getting that button in particular? वो button हमें आ रहा है return में. ठीक. तो that's how you can accept thing. Let's say कि मैं इस पे class रखता, right? So I can access class by writing dot button, right? Let's say you want to access your tag की तरीके से, तो you can just go and write the tag name, right? तो button है, तो you can just directly go and write button. It will access it, right? So query selector is much better way of doing things, right? Rather than writing get element by ID, get element by class name, इतना सा लिखो and you'll be able to get it, right? So query selector क्या करता है? Let's say कि if I go and write h2, right? तो are we expecting a collection? एक collection expect कर रहे हैं if I write h2, right? So if I go and write h2 in it, is it returning a collection? इस पे hover कर रहा हूँ तो it's just pointing toward first element, right? तो query selector ना specifically this method, it just return one thing, right? So if you're trying to get something from a collection, it will just return the very first element. So to help with this, we have another thing which is called all, right? So all you have to do is document.query selector, but uske aage you write all. If I go and write h2 in here, and if I go and do console.log all, you'll see that now it's giving us a list, right? Again, it's giving us in. The two ways of accessing thing, either you can do a query selector or you can do a query selector all based on how you wanna get things, right? तो चलो अभी एक quick recap कर देते हैं what we have learned so far. यहाँ पे we have learned how to access elements. Do we know that? Access कैसे करते हैं element को? There are few different ways, right? Either we can do get element by ID, or we can do elements by tag name, right? उसी तरीके से we have class name also. You can try that out. But rather than going for different ways, we can just go for a single way, which was एक single तरीका, query selector, right? So all we have to do is we have to just write query selector, and in this we'll have to inside string provide symbol also, right? So if it's ID, हमें बताना पड़ेगा कि it's an ID. If it's not, we can tell that. Event listener, I'll come at एक बार ये बता दो कि this is clear. At least how we can access elements उतना clear है. Clear? If I have to access random, so then what you will do is query selector में again this thing was returning an array. So you can pick that thing and you can write a 0, 1, 2, whatever you want. Right? ये कर सकते, ठीक है. उसके बाद we learned how can we modify stuff. Right? तो access करना सीख गए. We learned about modifying things. So let's say कि if I want to modify text, all I have to do is we have to access the element. So element access करो. Let's say I want to style it. They will write style and you can write anything, right? So you can write font size and you can tell कि 20 pixel चाहिए. You can access font family. You can access color. Everything will be there. Take all you have to do is you have to give it a big practice and वो भी ध्यान आ जाएगा कि how do you write these things, right? एक short format या फिर एक short form जो है वो ये रहता है कि अगर CSS में जाके ना we write font family like this ऐसे लिखते हैं, right? So यहाँ पे क्या होगा, ये dash हट जाएगा and you write it in camel case format, right? तो वो यहाँ पे आके ऐसा कुछ हो जाएगा font family. राइट अगेन जैसे जैसे एक बार करते जाओगे you'll get a better idea कि हाँ कैसी चीजें हैं, राइट. अगेन एट्रीब्यूट एक्सेस करना है तो all you have to do is you have to write element and उसके बाद you have to write dot. So if I want to access or add src in my image, what I'll do, src, right? If I have a anchor tag और उस anchor tag में I want to add href, what I'll do is anchor tag को access करूंगा and I'll add the href. Same thing goes for alt tag and all. Clear? Clear? यहाँ तक clear है कि how can we modify stuff, right? Then we learned about something which was event, right? The event was basically the thing that I was telling you guys for so long कि function जो होगा वो run होगा, basically call होगा whenever we are doing something, right? So basically when user tries to interact with website, वो he's trying to put some input, he's trying to press on the button, and फिर he's trying to select something from a selection and all. So that thing is basically user interacting with the website or user clicking or targeting some events, right? तो user website के साथ कुछ event कर रहा है. So there are multiple events. I can name few like click, like change and all, right? So again, you guys can go and check MDN for this. In notes, I have attached few things, so you can go and access there. For now, let's try to understand that there are two different ways of attaching event, right? दो तरीके हैं. One way is with HTML dependent, right? In this, what you do is basically HTML वाले piece of code में you'll go, let's say I have a button, right? तो यहाँ पे I'll have to go and write on click. Yes, and in this I'll have to do a function call. So rather than doing this, what you can do is in your second way, which is your script wala way, you can just access this button, right? Button को access करो and you write add event listener, right? And in this add event listener, it's going to take two arguments. First one will be what kind of event you want to pass, and second will be the callback function, right? So for button, हम क्या चाह रहे हैं? We're gonna add event listener. हम क्या event add कर रहे हैं? Click, right? And callback function can be called. बस इतना सा. Clear? Clear? अभी clear है? No doubts in these things. ठीक, तो छोटी छोटी बातें हैं. I hope that is clear. How many events? Multiple. ठीक, अच्छा. Now that we know कि how can we access element, how can we modify element, let's learn how can we actually create HTML के elements from our script tag only, right? Script tag में से ही HTML के element कैसे बनाते हैं? Let's try to learn that, right? So let me open a new tab and let's call it, right? I need to get better. सर क्या event listener क्या काम करता है? ठीक है, चलो एक और बार बता देता हूँ. इवेंट लिसनर करता है, इट बेसिकली ऐड इवेंट्स टू योर बटन, राइट? सो फॉर नाउ अगर मैं ऐसे बटन बनाता हूँ एंड इफ आई प्रेस ऑन इट, विल समथिंग हैपन? एनीथिंग हैपन? इफ आई जस्ट क्लिक ऑन दिस काइंड ऑफ बटन, कुछ भी होगा? नहीं. But if you want to run a function when you're clicking on this button, आप क्या करोगे? You will access that button from your DOM either by writing document.getElement by ID, query selector, anything, right? You access that button and उसमें you go and add event listener, This event listener is a method. It's going to take 2 arguments. First one will be what kind of event do you want to run? For button, we have click. So I'm going to write click, and then you can write the name of your function. That's it. Clear है? Clear है? ठीक, तो ब्रेक देता हूँ, एक छोटी सी चीज बताने दो, हाउ कैन वी क्रिएट एलिमेंट्स. ठीक, जस्ट लेट मी टेल यू दैट एंड देन आई विल गिव यू गाइस ब्रेक. ठीक, so yeah, let's say I have a div, and again यहाँ पे if I go and write script. ठीक, so guys quickly everyone tell me query selector के format में how can I access this div? Everyone, in form of query selector, how can I access this div? नहीं भाई, ऐसे शॉर्ट फॉर्म नहीं, पूरा लिख के भेजो, डॉक्यूमेंट डॉट व्हाट पूरा. Correct. So if we just have a single div, we don't need to go for ID for now, right? So what I can do is I can just access that div by writing document dot query selector, and uske andar I want to access div, right? Will I be accessing this div, right? So once I've accessed this div, what I want is div ke andar na I want to add a h2 tag. Right, but I want to remove all the dependency from our HTML. Rather than doing that, I want to add it directly from our script tag, right? So we go for a small method again. Let's say I call it heading 2, right? All we have to do is again we'll be accessing document wala object, and in that there is a way which is create element. Right, so basically हम document को access कर रहे हैं, and in that we are accessing a method which is called create element. Now this create element takes a single parameter, like it takes basically one parameter which accepts what kind of element do you wanna create, right? So let's say कि मुझे एक image बनाना, right? So now will I be creating a image element, right? Let me show you guys, एक बार दिखाता हूँ. So if I run this now, if I run my new file, ठीक, and if I keep it here and इसको यहाँ पे, यार एक तो यहाँ पे इतने सारे tabs हो जाते हैं, I'm not able to even see inspect. So if I click on console, right, and in here if I go and do, we zoom it out a bit, elements, right? तो element के अंदर we have body, and body के अंदर we have div, right? Now we have created a image tag, right? So image tag तो बन गया, right? We have to give it a source. Image tag to should we give a source? Then only we'll be able to see that image, right? So let's do one thing. Let's give it a source. So heading 2, which is basically your image wala element, I'm adding a source, right? So let's add a source. Again, let's get that mobile phone. Take ये लेते हैं and let's paste it in. Take, all right. तो दो काम हो गए. We have created an image tag and we have added the src. But are we able to see it on DOM? DOM पे दिख रहा है? DOM basically your document पे दिख रहा है? नहीं. What might be a possible reason? Have we given, मतलब मैंने इस image को, okay, let me name it something better rather than heading 2. मैं इसको name दे देता हूँ, image, right? img, this one. So I haven't referenced this image somewhere or anywhere in this document. मैंने मतलब I have not given it an address कि हाँ यहाँ पे जाके you have to go, right? So all you have to do is you have to access the parent. In here we have this div, so I'm gonna access that parent container, and उसमें I have to append it. Append का मतलब समझते हैं? Do we know the meaning of append? Basically paste करना, add करना, right? And what do I want to append? I want to append image. So I'm gonna go and write img. Have I added the image on my DOM? And have I added in here also? Div के अंदर, can you guys see an image? right? So now we are removing entire dependency from our HTML. All we need is a container and we can create everything in here, right? अब I want to point you guys कि use कैसे होगा. Just think कि all we need now is an array to iterate over and we can create elements from here itself, right? So we'll need to just create one div and एक loop run करेंगे and we can go for however many elements that we want, right? Sheikh, अभी लग रहा है कि it's making your code longer. Give me half an hour. You'll tell me कि it's making code a lot smaller. ठीक, div के अंदर ही कैसे गया image? Because container में we have done document.query selected div, right? So this is the div that we are accessing, right? And when we are doing a append, किस पे append कर रहे हैं? What is the parent that we are trying to append? Container, right? तो basically ऐसा कुछ होता है. In here parent dot append childs. ये ध्यान. Clear? Clear है? Right? ठीक है. ठीक है. So now we know one more thing, which is basically creating or create वाला part. ठीक. So you can do it by create element, right? And finally you have to append it parent dot append childs. Clear है? Clear है? Can we append grandchild too? Yeah, of course. Take. So let's do one thing. Let me give you guys a break. चलो ठीक है, तो मैं ग्रैंड चाइल्ड वाला भी बता ही देता हूँ, तब ब्रेक देते हैं सो दैट वी डोंट ब्रेक आवर फॉर्मेट, राइट? सो लेट्स से कि इन दिस कंटेनर ना, इस कंटेनर के अंदर आई वांट अ स्पैन टैग, राइट? आई वांट अ स्पैन टैग. ठीक, तो अभी मैं क्या करूंगा? I'll go and write let span equals to document dot create element, क्योंकि I need to create a span from scratch. Yes. So I'll go and write create element and in this I'll write a span tag, right? अब क्या करूंगा? I'll write span dot inner text and in here I'll go, or rather HTML add करते हैं, HTML, and I'll go and add h3 and I'll write hello world. ठीक. और यार मैं भूल गया था, मैं एग्जांपल दे रहा था आपको ग्रैंड चाइल्ड का. ठीक, तो ठीक है, हमने एक स्पैन टैग बना दिया, राइट? नाउ लेट्स डू वन थिंग, लेट्स क्रिएट अ h2 टैग. सो आई विल डू document dot create element this h2. ठीक, तो नाउ समवन आस्क्ड मी कि हाउ कैन वी क्रिएट ग्रैंड चाइल्ड एंड ऑल. सो बेसिकली ऐसा कुछ चाह रहा हूं मैं कि आई वांट टू हैव अ div. In that div I want to have a span tag, right? And in this span tag I want to have a h2. So is it grandchild creation in div? Is that this grandchild creation, right? तो आपको कुछ नहीं करना है. All you have to do is you have to find the parent. तो h2 का parent कौन होगा? Who will be the parent of h2? Span, everyone, span. So in this format what should I be writing here? यहाँ पे क्या लिखूंगा for the case of h2? Very good. So all I have to do is write span dot append and इसमें I want to append h2. And finally span का parent कौन है? Div, which we have named as container in variable. तो मुझे क्या करना है? container dot append and क्या append कर दूंगा? Span. That's all. Right? So if I go back in here and if I show you guys, if I refresh it, image में यहाँ पे print हुआ है. Let me just comment this one out for a second. ठीक है. Append span. I think we have missed something. Container span dot append h2 and container में हम लोग span को append करें. हाँ तो this is correct. Element span element. Finally, container में हम लोग span element करेंगे. ठीक है. Alright. So oh yeah very good यार H2 दिखे ऐसे जब हमने कुछ लिखा ही नहीं है तो correct. I was thinking in terms of maybe image or something, but मेरे दिमाग में ही नहीं. So if I write H element and in here if I write hi there, right? So yeah, this is there, right? And I can make it inner HTML, and inner HTML में I'll go and add HTML. Take with right तो H2 के अंदर हम एक और H2 create करें and उसमें we are writing. But we have already created a H2, so we can directly keep it as this also. ठीक तो बेसिकली एक पेरेंट बनाया राइट उसके अंदर वी वर अपेंडिंग अनदर चाइल्ड एंड देन उस पेरेंट को लेके उसको अपेंड कर दिया इन देयर पेरेंट. ठीक है इन्हें टेक्स्ट कर सकते हैं या दैट्स फाइन राइट तो H2 एलिमेंट ही है ना तो वी डोंट हैव टू राइट HTML इन इट तो दैट्स ठीक है ऑलराइट ठीक है तो चलो वी हैव लर्नड अबाउट क्रिएटिंग एंड if I create many elements same type I'll show you shortly. ठीक अभी हम लोग बनाने वाले हैं. ठीक तो go have a break of 2-3 minutes and then we'll be back. Everyone be back by 13. All right. Right, everyone back. HOFs are working if we use query selector all. Yeah, it should work because query selector all returns a node list which is exactly equal to your array, right? But your get wale things return you collections. If I write text contain place in a text, then the text will show like p tag somewhat. Yes. यहाँ पे what happened ना? If I don't use this thing, it goes directly as a normal text. right? That's why this is not used. You go for either inner text or inner HTML. ठीक, अभी आ गए सब? Everyone back? Everyone back? ठीक है, चलो. So now let's start creating web page, right? So web page 1.html, right? In here, let me really set things up. Script. यहाँ पे I have an object for you guys. So let's say I have an object like this, right? Let obj equals to this. So this object has title, this object has description, it has image, and it has price. Assuming we have a div in here, which is gonna be your container. So let's say I'm calling this div a container, right? I'll access this div, and in this div, I'm gonna create elements and I'm gonna append each and everything which is present in this object. So far हमने जितना सीखा है, can we do it? Do you think is that possible? With Tom. Okay. So let's try to implement this small thing. ये लगाने का try करते हैं. देख, चलो. So now in here, first thing first, we have to create. We have a div, right? So we might have different objects, right? तो चलो कोई नहीं, काम करते हैं. First thing first, we have to access this container, right? So accessing, do we know? Easy part है. All we have to do is we have to write container equals to document dot query selector, and we have to access ID. So I'll be writing hash container. Fine. This is fine. ठीक. उसके बाद next step will be to create these elements. Yes. So let's do one thing. Let's create p tags, right? So let title equals to document dot, what should I write here? यहाँ पे क्या आएगा? For creating elements, element create करने के लिए, create element. It takes a parameter which is basically the name of the element. I want to have a p tag, right? And in this p tag, what I want is title dot inner HTML should be basically object, or let's do one thing. But you guys don't know about dynamic strings, do you? Dynamic string के बारे में पता है? So let me just quickly clarify that. So let's say I have a variable, right? A equals to 1 and let B equals to 2 to 4. And I want to print console.log. Matlab finally, what I want to print is I have A and B. Basically, this should represent 1 and 24, and their sum is 2 to 5. So if we go for concatenation wala way, we're gonna write so many plus. One break will be here, one break will be here, one break will be here and here, right? So rather than going for that, we have something which is called dynamic string or dynamic string, or it's called template literals, right? So basically we write string with backticks, right? So rather than going for double quotes, हम क्या करते हैं? Double quotes or single quotes, हम backticks use करते हैं. And in this backtick, you can write everything as you want. But if you want something dynamic in it, like जैसे कि आपको एक variable रखना है which is dynamic. For now, if I in usual string, if I write and B and their sum is A plus B. For in this normal kind of string, this will be directly written as A, right? One नहीं लिखेंगे, we're gonna directly write A. But in template literals, what you can do is you can write dollar and curly braces. Now this will be dynamic, right? So it will contain the value of this variable directly, right? So यहाँ पे if I go and write dollar B, and if I go in here and if I take this entire thing and if I put it in this format, now these things will be dynamic. So they will change as the variable changes. If I go in inspect again and if I click on console, take, and you see it has, I have 1 and 24 and their sum is 25. If I update it, if I write a plus plus, so it will update based on that. 2 and this. So this is dynamic way of writing things. Is that part clear? Let's see, समझ आता है? Again dynamic string, ठीक है? So just syntax is you have to write backticks for dynamic string, backticks, and in this you can type your normal stuff, right? Hi everyone. But let's say कि आपको कोई variable type करना है, right? So let name equals to Viran. So if you want to type this variable in here, आप क्या करोगे? Either you go and write name. तो for now, if I print this name, I'll be printing directly name. यही name print होने वाला है. एक console करके दिखा रहा हूँ. Console.log. If I take this thing, right, and if I put it in, वो directly just name print करेगा. It won't print the value in it. So to help with that, all you have to do is you have to write not and $, and you have to cover this thing in curly bracket. Right? So it's a JSX format of writing thing. आगे चल के you will understand more about that. But for now, yeah, this is how you can write dynamic strings. Clear? ठीक है, ठीक है. तो ये क्यों बताया? Because in here I wanna make this thing dynamic. Basically, inner HTML में what I wanna do is I wanna have a B tag which is bold tag, and bold tag में I want product title. Right, and finally, once this B tag ends, मैं क्या चाहता हूँ? The product title should be obj.title. कितनों को समझ आता है what I have done in line number 26? How many of you guys are getting it? Rather, I should ask how many of you guys are not getting it? ठीक, not completely. Okay, I'll give you 1 minute. आराम से देखो और समझो कि हो क्या रहा है. Okay, chalo. So in here, in line number 16, we have created an object, right? We have created an object. What we are doing in line number 24 is we're accessing this container, right? उसके बाद what we are doing is we are trying to create an element which is basically p tag. यहाँ तक समझ आता है सबको? कोई भी ऐसा जिसको ये पार्ट नहीं समझ आता है? Anyone not getting at least till line number 26? Everyone getting it? ठीक है. Now next line is basically we are trying to give this title or this p tag a inner HTML. For that we are using dynamic string. Now this dynamic string, given that we are using inner HTML, हमारे पास we can add a bold, right? तो product title इतना part will be in bold, and the title which is basically mobile will be in your normal p tag, right? Right? So वो जो normal p tag है, that is gonna be your dynamic object dot title. Clear? Clear? Right? So जिनको नहीं समझ आ रहा है, if I do console.log with template literal and यहाँ पे I'm writing product name is $obj.title, tell me what should be the output. line number 29 का output क्या होगा? Final output क्या console होने वाला है? Everyone write the entire string, right? No shortcuts, write the entire string. Make sense? Make sense? Right? So basically I'm gonna write product's name is mobile. If I change it by mobile 64 RAM, it's gonna get updated because this thing is dynamic, right? So all we did was यहाँ पे we just used our HTML का feature which is inner HTML, right? And उसमें we have added B and normal p tag में object.title is there. Clear? Clear? So now if I go and do container dot append and append में if I go and write title, तो guys think कि मुझे वो title दिखने लगेगी, right? So there you go. We have product title, itna part is in bold, and the next part which is P is in normal p tag. Clear? Clear? Are there any type of dynamic string or template literal? Yeah, this is one. Clear? The second part will be adding the description or image, right? So what I can do is I can go and create image, right? So this will be document dot create element, and this will be image. Next step of adding src from this object, you guys will write, everyone write it and paste it in chat. I'll see. Can we style those elements which has been created by JS? Of course, you can just go and write things here. Title dot style dot color, and you can write whatever you want, right? Midnight blue, or rather aqua. ठीक? Basically नाम मेरे को इतने ध्यान नहीं रहते हैं. So yeah, there you go. You can update everything, right? It acts exactly as document. ठीक? चलो next step लिखो everyone. Easy है? Easy है? So all we have to do is we have to write image.src, and this is gonna be link of the image. What is link of the image? obj.image. obj.image, is that the link of image? Yes. So if it is, why can't I know? ये देखो यहाँ पे we have a image, right? That image has a string, right? So can I not write obj.image? Previously dynamically string. अच्छा guys, come on. ये चीज तो you should be getting it, right? यहाँ पे we just directly need the value of image, but in here we need to. You can even directly write obj.title here also only, right? obj.title, you can write it and you will be able to see that title, right? ये देखो, you can see that title, but I wanted to beautify it. I wanted to add layer to it. तो मैंने क्या किया? I went for HTML, in inner HTML. In that I went for bold, and bold में I added product title. But the second issue was that we can't update things in string. So I went for dynamic string. But यहाँ पे do we need dynamic string, or we can just directly do obj.image? Directly use obj.image. Right? If you guys are getting confused, no, just remove this for now. Right? If you're getting confused, there you go. And इसको just go and create this thing as a h3 or something. Right? That works for me. ठीक है? Let me remove this thing also. ठीक, so that works for me. All right. Can I add image on another div? Of course you can. You just have to update the pairing. Take. So now what I have to do is I have to append this image. So I can just append it here only. So image comma title. The first image will be seen, then title will be seen. Clear? We can add multiple childs. Take. So in HTML, something like this is happening. There is a div in that we have an image tag and we have a h3 tag so far. Clear? Same way we can add the descriptions. So all we have to do is let dsc equals to document dot create element, and in here I can write p tag. Description is going to be p tag dsc dot inner, and you guys are getting confused with HTML, तो मैं text ही जा रहा हूँ. ठीक, try it. Inner HTML के साथ dynamic string, it's a good thing. Just try it. ठीक, and in here I'll go and write obj dot description. Right, so description. And there you go. I'll append it. So we see, and I'll have the description. Orders ध्यान में रखना पड़ेगा. Yeah. So if you put title before your image, right? So title पहले आएगा. So order you guys can keep in mind, right? That's not something that we have to worry about. Order तो we can keep in mind. ठीक, इस पे CSS कैसे लगेगा? Either you can go for यहाँ पे ये वाला script tag, or you can go for direct यहाँ वाला. Right? So I can just go and directly write style, and style में I can write hash container, and I can do that. ठीक है? Or you can apply it from here, but यहाँ पे क्या होता है ना? If you try to apply style from CSS, script tag, styles are a lot, right? बहुत सारे style होते हैं, तो it's not really preferred कि आप JS में style लिखो, it's rather preferred that you write style in style section. ठीक है, but there is a way. I showed you कि yeah, we can do it like that. ठीक ठीक है. So element को ID कैसे दे? There is a way of adding attribute, but I mean, I want you guys to do trial and error, right, guys? Set attributes here. So let's say कि मैं title dot id करके एक ID देता हूँ and I go and write hash given ID, right? So let's assume कि maybe this might work क्योंकि the attributes are working like that. So what I'll do is I'll go in here and I'll write hash given ID, right? यही नाम दिया ना? Yeah, and let's say if I go in here and if I write color equals to red, so is that working? Right? So is it anything new? I've told you guys attribute you can add by writing a dot. कुछ नया किया मैंने यहाँ? No, right? So all you have to do is you have to just give it a small, like थोड़ा सा push though, right? And you'll be able to do it. ठीक, but again, there's a lot more thing. ID बता दे तो do I need to tell you guys कि class भी ऐसे add होता है? No, right? It's self-explanatory. मैंने बोला कि you can add attribute by adding like this, so you can add attribute. ठीक है? ठीक है? Yes, Raghavendra, just remind me once. All right. चलो. So इतना बात clear हो गई? How can we append things? Finally, we have a price. So shall we append the price also? Right? Correct, Dhirendra. So let price equals to document dot create element, and in here we'll create a p tag. In p tag में I'll add a price dot inner text, and this will be obj dot price. Right? And finally we have to append it also, of course. So I'll append price. There you go. Right? Acha. Acha. Now so far we have done this small thing for a single object. Right? Let's say if I give you guys an array of object, do you think you can do it? I can say multiple yes, and that's a very, very good thing, right? It seems like you guys are thinking in exact right direction. Sure. Let's say if I have an array, right? I already have created an array for you guys. Let's say now we have an array, right? ये रहा array of products which has same key value pairs. All we have to do is we have to just run a loop on this particular thing, right? And obj.title के बजाय, let's say if I'm using for each, will this get updated with element.title? Right? So let's do one thing. Let me just cut this thing out. Right? इसको हटाते हैं. Let's go and write container नहीं that. Let's go and write products. Right? So products array पे, let's go and write for each. Right? And in this, I'm gonna write a function, and this is gonna have element and index. And in here, I'm gonna paste this thing. See, so we are creating title, we are creating image, we are creating this and that. But एक काम करते हैं. For now, we just have a container, एक container है, and we are directly appending title, image, and all in that. So shall we create small divs in that, or उसमें append our title and all, and then finally append this div in container? Would that be a better approach? Right? So basically what I'm saying is, for each and every product now, let's create a separate div, right? Creating a separate div is not an issue, right? Separate div is not an issue. All we have to do is we have to access document. We have to write dot create element. And in here, I'll just write div. And finally, ये जो append का काम है ना, I'll do it in separate div. right? And finally, I'll append separate div in my container. So container dot append separate div. Okay. Plus a small change will be there. Now, are we accessing an object or are we accessing a particular element? Element, right? मुझे कंसोल करके दिखाना पड़ेगा क्या? Do I have to show you guys with the console कि what we are getting or you're getting it already? समझ आ रहा है, right? ठीक है. So all I have to do is I have to pick all the object and I have to update them with a element. That's all. So if I go back in here, you'll see कि सारी की सारी चीजें already map हो रखी, right? I do not anymore have to write entire HTML for each and everything, right? All I did was I just ran a loop on my array and everything is created, right? How do we select multiple text? If you want to pick, like, let's say मुझे सारे create element pick करने हैं, तो I'll just cover over it and I'll do a control D. ठीक, please repeat. Of course I will. चलो. So is this visible, guys? ये दिख रहा है क्या सबको इतना small में? Everyone? ठीक है, तो थोड़ा सा छोटा रहता है ना, तो it's a bit easier for me to explain things. चलो. So yeah, here. ठीक है, तो is this clear कि we have an array of object? It's control D, yeah. Array of object है. So now in that array, can I run a for each? Can I run a for each? Yes. ठीक है. So in this for each now, what we are doing is initially we have a container, right? Which is this thing. Now in this for each, we are accessing a particular object at each iteration. Yes. Yes, एक particular object पकड़ रहे हैं, right? And for that object, we are creating a div, right? So basically we are creating a box, right? Now, after that, we are creating a title, we are creating an image, we are creating a description, and we are creating a price. ठीक, तो एक iteration में this thing is happening. Are we clear with at least this part कि एक iteration में क्या हो रहा है? In one iteration, what's happening? ठीक. एंड फाइनली इन लाइन नंबर 94 हमने सबको अपेंड कर दिया. एंड इन लाइन नंबर 95 आई एम पिकिंग दिस बॉक्स and I'm appending it in container. So I'm taking this and I'm appending it in container, right? So now I have added a box in here. Now the second iteration runs and we are taking the second set of object, right? For that second set of object, we are again taking a separate div, right? And we are doing this entire thing again and again. Separate div mein we are appending title, image, description, price, and finally appending it to container. So that thing is getting appended in container. Everyone? Everyone? Can we use for loop instead of for each loop? Yeah, you can. But it is much better to use higher order function because you don't have to create much dependency ki end kahan pe hoga, start kahan pe hoga. That is already taken care of, right? So just go for each for me, right? So how is this thing created these many elements? Is that clear? Everyone? Everyone? Right? ठीक है. So now the thing is that the div is a block level element. That's why everything is coming in next line, right? We can simply style it. All we have to do is we have to use our knowledge of relationships, right? So we all know that we have container, right? And is it clear कि container के अंदर we are creating individual divs and those divs has p tag and image tag and all? Is that clear? Is that clear? Right? So if I want to create a grid format, should I be writing grid on this container only? Display grid? Everyone? याद आ गया? Right? So I'll go and write display as grid, right? What was the next step? defining the columns. So grid template columns, let's say repeat 3, 1 fraction. Remember this small thing. याद है? Right? Let's say कि मैं इसको width दे देता हूँ 80% and margin कर देता हूँ auto. What was these two things doing? Margin auto क्या कर रहा था? It was centering the div just horizontally. सिर्फ horizontally center कर रहा था हमारे div को, right? So we have given that. Let's give it a gap also, right? So gap of 20 pixels. ठीक, shall we go and see our box now? दिख रहा है? But it's a bit off क्यों है? Because images are of different widths and height. So what we will do is we'll fix the images. We'll have to access the image. So I'll access container. Container के अंदर we have a div, and inside that div do we have an image? Container के अंदर div के अंदर do we have an image? Right? So container के अंदर div के अंदर image. Image को बोलेंगे भाई आपका width जो है ना वो रहेगा 80%. ठीक, तो width is same for each and everything. Let's fix height to height, let's say 250 pixel. Right? तो are we fixing height also? थोड़ा सा stretch हो रहा है. Let's make it 200 pixel. ठीक, so every box is now of same size. Same size है, right? Please use border. Border के बजाय let's do one thing. Let's use border shadow, box shadow. Remember box shadow? Container के अंदर div. Every div is gonna have a box shadow, right? So 1 pixel and 1 pixel. I'll need a spread of 2 pixel, and finally 4 pixel का radius, right? And this I can keep gauge में. मिल गया हर एक बॉक्स को, राइट? ठीक है, तो थोड़ा सा स्ट्रेच हो रहा है गाइस. लेट्स डू वन थिंग. width को let's make it 70% and height let's decrease height a bit, right? 150. ठीक, and image को let's do one thing. यहाँ पे let's write text align center, तो image will be centered by default. ठीक है, it's stretching a bit, right? थोड़ा सा stretch हो रहा है image. Let's make width 60%. ठीक है, I guess this looks good. ठीक, तो yeah, you can do that. Clear है? Clear है? तो now we don't need to write different divs. This is fine. अब even though you go and add few more products ना, that's on you. Product add करते रहो, it's not an issue. It's not an issue. It will be taken care of directly, right? Automatically it will be taken care of. Right? So now do we have to go for redundancy या फिर हमारे पास simplify हो गया चीज? Right? So whoever asked कि now we are writing more code, if we are creating these many divs, do you think we are writing more code or are we writing much less code? Right? और ये देखो HTML file is empty. HTML file खाली है. ठीक, so this is how DOM actually works. This is how we combine our HTML with JavaScript. Clear है? Clear है? Right. So let's do a quick recap of whatever we have learned so far. जितना भी कुछ पढ़ा है, right? So I'll create a recap.md file बना देते हैं, and in here let's do a quick recap. So far I have taught you DOM, and DOM में हमने क्या सीखा? हमने सीखा CRUD, right? अब CRUD क्या होता है? It basically stands for create, read, update and delete, right? So out of these 4 things, what have we learned so far? We have learned create, we have learned read, and we have learned update, right? Delete will be basically your filter wala functionality, right? So if you want to delete something, we'll filter it out. I'll take that up in tomorrow's session. राइट? कल के सेशन में विल डिस्कस कि हाउ वी कैन वो सॉर्टिंग वगैरह कर रहे थे ना, तो हाउ वी कैन सॉर्ट बेस्ड ऑन प्राइस, हाउ वी कैन डिलीट स्टफ, विल डिस्कस दैट टुमारो. ठीक है? सो फॉर नाउ लेट्स डू अ क्विक रीकैप. तो इन हियर वी हैव लर्नड अबाउट हाउ कैन वी क्रिएट एलिमेंट. कैसे करते हैं क्रिएट? क्रिएट कैसे करते हैं? We have to write document, then we have to write dot create element, and then we have to write element name. Is that how we create it? But that's not it. There's one more step. क्या है? To add it, right? So I'll pick the parent and उसमें I'll append, right? And this can be however many child we want. ठीक? The order should be maintained. जो whatever you have written first, no, that will come first in your DOM. So you have to take care of that thing only. Take next was read or basically access, right? So how do we access HTML के element? Read slash access. DOM के elements rather, DOM के elements rather. There are multiple ways, but the optimized ways are query selector. Query selector, because using query selector we can access everything. Be it a ID, be it a class, be it a tag, anything. Right? But let's say that there are multiple of same thing. Let's say we are accessing multiple classes. So what should I go with? Query selector या फिर query selector all. Right? So I should go with query selector. Take plus you guys remember that we had get element by ID, class name and all. So just keep that in mind. Right? Then next thing was updating it. Right? So I've given you a small hint कि if you want to access the attribute, all you have to do is access the element, right? Write a dot and write the attribute name. Was this working? काम कर रहा था ये? Be it for style, be it for giving ID, be it for giving SRC, be it for giving href. It was working for everything. Remember? Shivam, yes, you can use set attribute, but set attribute से better ये नहीं है. You have to just write a dot. Set attribute में you'll have to pass your ID का name, you'll have to pass where you want to add it. You can just directly go with this. ठीक, and you can just update it. Update में we learned about, for text we learned about 3 different things. We had inner HTML, we had inner text, we had text content. Out of these 3, which 2 are exact same? At least almost exact same. So basically inner text or text content, na, they just target inner text and text content basically just target the text inside a tag or element. Right? So let's say we have an element which is basically div, and this div has another element. And this div has another element, basically your h2. Right? So if I want to target this h2 के अंदर का text, this has some text. What I'll do is I'll just go and access my div. I'll write a dot and I'll write an inner HTML, inner text. ये क्या देगा मेरे को? It's just gonna give me this text. That's all. It's not gonna pick उसका child which is h2 or anything. It's just gonna pick that text which is this has some text. Right? But rather than accessing that text, if you go for inner HTML, now this targets text plus the tags that are present inside that tag. Right? So if I do div.inner HTML, this thing is gonna give me h2 and uske andar this has some text. Clear? Clear? Right? So this is the difference between inner HTML and inner text. उसी तरीके से you can access it to modify or manipulate it. Or do I have to tell that also? तो let's say कि div.inner HTML लिखते हो ना, and if you write this, so now in your string you can add tags also, right? So let's say if I want to add a new tag, so I can write a new tag. Let's say if I want to add layers of tags, right? So I can add layers of tags. That's totally fine, right? ये देखो यहाँ पे I'll just go and write h2 add करना है, and this h2 is gonna be this has some heading. This is fine. Clear? Clear? ठीक है. So this is what we have covered so far. Finally, we learned about iterating over array of object, right? So basically what we did was हमने बस array of object पे iterate किया, right? So let's say I have a products array, so I'll do a for each on it, and this for each we are gonna have function, and your function can have these two things, right? This was the basic higher order function that we learned. Take now let's say कि let product is equals to an array of objects, right? It has multiple objects in it. So this element, if I do a console.log of element, this is gonna give us these objects. Is that clear? Is that clear? Everyone? Everyone? So if these objects have title in them, right? Name 1. This one has title name 2. This one has title name 3. So for each iteration, if I do element dot title, will I not be getting name 1, name 2, and name 3? Yes, and I can just use this thing to dynamically iterate over my objects and create element and append them. Clear it? Clear it? Right? So I hope everyone can now at least dynamify their ये वाला चीज. Now you don't have to go and write each and every div, have to write each and every image, and you have to write each and every h2 tag. वो part is clear. Yes, guys, is that clear? Any doubts in this thing so far? Here we use for each to show the data. So where we use map in website. ठीक है. Now, why did we use for each? Basically, was there any requirement where we had to return a new array or modified array? Was there any requirement? No, but let's say we are creating a cart page, right? Just think about this situation. We're creating a cart page, right? So cart page pe we are gonna have a cart wala array, right? It is gonna have some objects, right? If you want to show everything, we want to show it in this format. But let's say कि हर एक cart में ना, now in price section, I want to add a 15% of GST or 5% anything, right? So now do I need a modified array जिसके elements should be modified, right? So in that case, should I go with for each or map, right? तो for here हम कुछ modification नहीं कर रहे हैं, we are not modifying it. So for now we are going with map. For each, but if we need to do modification, we'll go with map. If we want to filter some stuff out, we'll go with filter. If we want to apply sorting, we'll go with sort. Clear? Clear? ठीक है, ठीक है. So guys, again, few things that I want you guys to find out. Notes में कुछ चीजें I have already mentioned, but some things you have to go and check it out in MDN. क्या करना है? Basically find outs. Basically events check करो कि how many event do we have. For now we have learned about click. There is also on change. This on change will be applicable on inputs. It will be applicable on select tags, right? Then there will be a form type of thing. Form, I don't think I'll teach you guys for now. The form abhi nahi sikhaunga. But when I'll teach you guys, you'll see कि there is a submit event also. Right, so go for these at least. Check multiple events. There are multiple events. Check how can you go and access multiple attributes and all. Do these things. what is doing element inside function? Function के अंदर element is basically these things, right? Last lecture में you have learnt about higher order function. Remember? याद है? Right? So these elements are those objects, right? Web page में if I go and do a products dot for each, and in this for each function element, if I go and do console.log element, will I not be accessing these objects individually? Right? तो बस वही access कर रहे हैं, right? If I show you in inspect ना, inspect पे दिखाऊं console, so I'm just accessing those objects individually, right? And let's say, let me just put it here, and let's say, I need full screen. एक second है. Let me just do setup quickly. Take. And let's say if I go in here and if I write element dot title, so I'll be just accessing titles, right? So that's what we are doing in here. Clear? Element का role. Take product data कैसे लेना है? For now, you guys will have your products. जिस तरीके से मैंने यहाँ पे for now I've created the array. You can create your own array and you can go for it. For now, this thing is there. Shortly, next week में we'll learn कि how we can get data from backend itself. So backend से data कैसे लेना है? We'll learn about that. Take without event dot default, that's for form, right? That's exclusively for form. Event dot prevent default, you don't have to do it here. API say yes. API for now I haven't taught you guys how you can deal with API. Take any use of array. We don't have a use of array here. अभी के लिए array के साथ कोई use नहीं है. We don't need. ठीक है? Clear है? कोई doubts, कोई दिक्कत, कोई परेशानी किसी को भी? Local storage, yeah, next week we will learn about local storage. ठीक है? And I hope